Yes, guys, what's happening? And welcome to the stream and welcome back to the channel. And yesterday it finished Wolves 0, Omicron FC Chelsea 0 in a game that was largely uneventful. Nothing much happened, not very inspiring whatsoever. But, I think the circumstances dictated that. It was an absolute farce. I travelled up to the game yesterday with about 3,000 other Chelsea supporters, and it's an absolutely ridiculous situation to be in, that as travelling fans, you are heading up to a game and you've got no idea if the game's going ahead or not. You're taking a risk close to Christmas by travelling on public transport, etc. Could end up catching COVID potentially, having to isolate for Christmas, etc. You take these risks as travelling fans, you spend your money and stuff, and the Premier League can't be fucked to, give us any guidance, any clarity on the rules or anything whatsoever. And the whole thing yesterday was an absolute mess. And it's actually conspired today that obviously the festive fixtures are going to continue, which I think is absolute nonsense. It's not a level playing field now. You've got, for example, Chelsea. We're going to play 3 games in 7 days with virtually the same starting 11. I imagine Brentford in the Cup on Wednesday is going to be largely, we're going to use a lot of youth team players. I think quite a few of those, 4 or 5 have been called up from the under 23s to the first team training this week so far. So I expect to see a few of those in the Cup on Wednesday. But we're going to be playing 3 games in 7 days. And we're going to head to Villa, who haven't played in 11 days on Boxing Day. It's not really fair, But obviously the precedent's set now. If you've got 14 players like we had and 1 goalkeeper, then the match has to go ahead. But obviously it's clear that 6 games were called off this weekend, and they all had less positive cases than we do. Chelsea were the first club to play a game with 7 positive cases in the squad. And yeah, it wasn't called off. The Premier League rejected our request. I'd love them to provide some insight onto why they rejected that request. It just seems like there's a bit of an agenda against the club at the moment. I don't want to kind of create a siege mentality, but Mourinho was right when he said it all those years ago. There is an agenda against Chelsea, and I can't think of a single logical reason as to why this game went ahead and why the request was rejected. But, it is what it is. We had to roll with the situation. There was no consideration for the fans, as I said, but I want to give a big shout out to all the travelling fans that made the trip up to Wolverhampton yesterday in those circumstances where we had no idea what was going to happen. Big respect to everyone that made that trip, and a massive respect to everyone involved with the club yesterday, the players, the coaching staff, everyone, given the unfortunate circumstances that we found ourselves in. Mr. Harris tuning in. Let's have a quick read of this. Fans' considerations being placed last in the Premier League's priorities. Yeah, no, mate, it's an absolutely fair point. That as we've said so many times, the league, the product is nothing without the fans, and yet the fans are always bottom of the list of considerations. We saw it with the Super League. Fans weren't thought about at all. We made a fuss about it. Now, hopefully we're more considered. But yeah, this showed no consideration whatsoever. When you got like Aston Villa Burnley as well at the weekend, was called off 2 hours before kickoff. I was speaking to a lot of fans on the way up, and we were just like on the train and that thinking, like, literally, they could just pull the plug on this game any minute. They could even do it like a couple of hours before kickoff, an hour before kickoff. They just do it whenever they want and they don't care. But yeah, mate, it's a farce. It really is. But, it's the situation we're in at the moment, and we just have to deal with it. But there's nothing we can do. But we've definitely been hit hard by it, and the integrity of the league has to be brought into question, because it's not fair how certain teams can get 3 or so games called off, get all their majority of their cases done out of the way of the isolation. For example, Tottenham, I think they missed about 3 games, same as Man United. You're telling me that United particularly couldn't field a team? Come on now, behave. It's an absolute farce. But yeah, obviously back to the game. I have to say, my first away day, obviously in slightly unfortunate circumstances, not able to see our best lineup, etc. But the experience itself was fantastic. Great to be amongst the travelling faithful, experience a different stadium. I have to say, though, the away end at Molineux is an odd one. Like, normally you got like the fans in a corner in a section. But this was a bit more spread out, so it was a little bit disjointed. Different sections got different chants going, etc. But yeah, no, it was great to be amongst it, and was a good experience nonetheless. I mean, in terms of the game itself, there's not really a lot to say about it because nothing really happened. The only moment worth mentioning in that first half was the disallowed goal for Podence. I mean, I didn't think it was offside, but obviously, having watched it back, it was offside. And I still don't understand why they let all the celebrations happen, why they let the stadium announcer announce the goal scorer, and then they chalk it off for offside. If it's offside, just raise your flag straight away. I just don't understand that. But yeah, from a Chelsea perspective, in that first half, it was really, really poor. It was to be expected. Look, we had to make quite a few changes to the lineup. Obviously, Kante back in, which is fantastic. He was a real big positive. Chalobah alongside him in midfield, I don't think he did that badly in the first half. The back three, not too bad, and the fullbacks, etc. And then we had the same front three. We didn't really have any other options up there, unfortunately, and it was a bit one-dimensional at the top end of the pitch. We didn't create anything. And we largely stifled Wolves, but Wolves also stifled us. So the two teams kind of cancelled each other out. But we just offered nothing. We looked really slow in the transitions. And I'm surprised we didn't try something different at the top end of the pitch. I know we did a little bit later on when Matej Kovacic came on, but just switching it around. I know Pulisic is not a false nine, and he struggled yesterday. Not all his own fault. When we're punting aerial long balls into the box for someone who's 5'9", come on, guys. Let's play with what we've got at the moment, and that isn't to our strengths. Playing it up into the box for someone who's 5'9", as I said. But yeah, first half nothing happened. Let's just have a quick look at this. Do you know what? Wolves away it's a good point. But obviously, given the circumstances we're in, having dropped costly points, you just mentioned there, mate, with home draws to Everton and Burnley, etc., this is another 2 points drop that we really couldn't afford to drop. But I mean, I think in the circumstances, it was a positive result. I knew on the way up that it was going to be a big ask to win this game. Wolves are decent at home; they're a good side. I mean, Man United got so lucky when they beat them. Liverpool got a stoppage time winner, I think, a couple of weeks ago, to win 1-0 there. So it's not an easy place to go at the best of times. So I do actually think we did well to take something from the game, and I think that was a positive. But in terms of performance level, like, this game can kind of be a little bit excused. But we've been playing badly for a long time, for a good few weeks now, and that is a little bit of a concern. But yeah, only really, I mean, Sal Niguez, so George in the chat there, about Sal. I've got to be honest, mate, apart from once when he gave the ball away, which the fans got on his back a little bit for, it was actually one of his better performances. I know the bar's quite low, but credit where credit's due. I actually think he was good, and he looked better sitting a bit deeper. I know it was simple; he was just recycling possession, etc. But what he did, he actually did it well. So yeah, it was positive from him, and I think with all the problems we've got with COVID, etc. Injuries in the midfield. I think Loftus-Cheek was one of the positive COVID cases as well. Kovacic and Kante coming back from injuries. Tuchel saying that they had to go against the medical department yesterday. Kante was only meant to play 45, but we had to give him. We had to play him for 90. So, but yeah, Tuchel praising Sal Niguez. I think it's a bit of both. Like, some managers do come out and publicly criticise players, but I think with Sal Niguez, with his confidence so low, as a manager, you got to keep the spirits of the player up. And in fairness, as I said, he did do quite well yesterday. So yeah, I think that's justified praise for Sal Niguez, even though it was kind of quite simple what he did. He did it well, and it was another plus. To go with the clean sheet, the first in 7 games, was the return of Matej Kovacic. He'd been out for about 8 weeks, then contracts COVID, out for another 10 days. It was good to see him return for some action. I think he'd come on for about 15, 20 minutes or so. Saw a slight change in shape as well then, with 3 into the middle, and it was kind of Pulisic and Mason Mount playing as kind of a twin strikers. I mean, that didn't really offer too much. We had one moment with our one main chance. I mean, I thought it was a bit of a bad miss seeing it live. Actually, watching it back, it is quite difficult. You know, you still should really score that, but Pulisic kind of through, and it's a good save from the keeper. But that was our only moment, to be honest, in the game yesterday. And it's. Look, it's a concern. It's 2 wins. Look, there's no sugarcoating this. It's 2 wins in 7. You know, that isn't good enough. If you're going for a Premier League title, picking up 2 wins in 7 games is not the one, really. You know, it's not what you need. But having said that, you know, we're 6 points off Manchester City, and we're a couple points behind Liverpool, maybe 3 points behind Liverpool. That draw with Spurs yesterday helped us out with staying in touch with Liverpool. And if these fixtures over the Christmas period are going to continue to go ahead, you know, we've got an opportunity. We play Liverpool at the start of the new year. We play Manchester City. I know it's a big ask to win both those games, but once we start getting all our players back fit again, we are capable of beating both those teams in those games. So whilst the title for me is a big ask this season, it's not completely out of the question at all. And it was another big plus to keep a clean sheet. First one in 7 games, as I alluded to. That's really important because we've been letting in a lot of silly goals. And, you know, if we're going to win this title, it's going to be built on a solid defence because, as I've said many times before on the show, we haven't got the capabilities to blow teams away where it doesn't matter if we let in 2 and we go and score 3 or 4. We don't do that. We're going to be built on a solid defence and winning games by the odd goal. So it was good to see the clean sheet return. Let's have a quick look at this, mate. With the January window fast approaching, do you think Chelsea will look to strengthen the squad? And what players would you be looking at to come in and push out? In terms of pushing out, I think it's clear Ross Barkley is dog shit. It's as simple as that. I'm not going to dress it up. He's not good enough for Chelsea. So we need to... If something came in for him, a loan deal, maybe. I know Newcastle's been sniffing potentially, but I'm not sure if there'll be any outgoings just purely based on the fact that, you know, with all the injuries we've got at the moment, with the COVID cases, you don't know when that could return again. Like, we're going to need our squad, even the players that ideally you'd be looking to move on. You probably do need to keep those. In terms of coming in, we need to address that left wing back position. And I think Everton have just signed a left back from Dynamo Kiev. And it looks like that Luca Digne, the Everton fullback, formerly of Barcelona, I think he's a really good player, will be available in January. Chelsea needs to be jumping on that. So if he's available, then that's someone that we need to be looking to bring in because Luca Digne, I think, is better than Marcus Alonso, and he'd be a good option instead of Ben Chilwell as well. Yeah, so mate, I'd be looking at probably not moving anyone on because of the current situation. And if we can bring in Luca Digne at fullback, then 100% that needs to be done. I think that would be a good window. Obviously, if something remarkable presents itself, then you do take that. You would take the opportunity. But for me, bring in Luca Digne at left wing back, and I think the rest of the squad we probably stay intact because with COVID and injuries, we're going to pick up more positive cases, more injuries as the season goes on. We are going to need everyone, no matter how kind of substandard they are. But I mean, yeah. I mean, back to the game. There's not really a lot else for me to say about it. And you know, Tuchel was right to be fuming with this game going ahead. You know, the player welfare is obviously not thought about. He wasn't that bothered about the point in the end. It's the fact that, you know, there's just a disregard for players' well-being. We had positive cases like 3 or 4 days on the spin in the camp. And then as he said, they're having dinners together and they're in the bus together, you know, and I think it's not going to spread. You know, it's ridiculous, but I don't want to sound like a broken record and keep going on about it. So I'm going to get into the player ratings. I'm just going to bring that share screen up. Bear with me. Okay, so let's have a look at this then. Obviously, Edouard Mendy in goal. I thought he was solid. Again, he didn't have an awful lot to do either. Didn't have too many saves to make. I think a pretty standard performance, to be honest, from Mendy. He was above average, but I mean, he wasn't amazing because he didn't really have any saves to make. So I think a 6 for Edouard Mendy is fair. And, you know, we've got to make the most of him because as it stands, the African Cup of Nations is still going ahead. So we've only got about he's not going to play. And I don't think he's going to play against Brentford in the Cup. So I think we've only got about 2 more games with Mendy. And then I believe he'll be joining up with the Senegal squad. So we need to make the most of that. But yeah, the standard there at the office of Mendy, not an awful lot to do. And yeah, we move on. 6 out of 10 for him. Move into the back line. Aspilicueta obviously played on that right side of the back three. And then when Traore came on, there was a little tactical switch. Aspi went out to right wing back and Reece James tucked in at that third centre back, a bit more pace to try and combat the threat of Traore. As it transpired, Traore didn't really offer very much at all. The service up to him was poor. From Aspi, look, he tried really hard. He did work hard. But again, he wasn't that great, to be honest. I'd probably say below average, really. I mean, it sounds a bit harsh, but I'm gonna have to give Aspi a 4.5 out of 10. Sorry, you know, not the best from him, but you know, it's one of them. I wouldn't be surprised if Aspi was moved on in the summer. I wouldn't be surprised if he wanted to go and try something new, return to Spain, maybe. We're going to have a lot of players to address in the defensive areas of the pitch in the next couple of windows, because there's going to be a few moving on and there's going to be some more that need to come in. But yeah, I hate to criticise Aspi, but it wasn't a great performance yesterday. One of his better ones in the run of games that he's found himself back in the team, but not ideal. And moving on to Thiago Silva, I mean, this guy was outstanding again yesterday. He just makes the game look so easy. You know, 37 years of age. You know, he came from PSG to win the Champions League, as the chant goes. And I mean, what a player! I don't know what else I can say about him. The guy is unbelievable. I mean, for me, he's probably already Chelsea's player of the season for this season. He certainly is so far. He just makes the game look so easy. You know, the way he reads it, he's so calm on the ball. He was really, really good yesterday. Not my man of the match. I think Kante was my man of the match. Obviously, I'll get to him shortly. But yeah, a solid 7.5 for Thiago Silva. I mean, what a signing he's turned out to be. 4.5 out of 10 for a 0-0. Yeah, I don't think it's harsh. You know, look, he contributed to the clean sheet, mate, but you know, he didn't really offer very much else. It was a below average performance. I mean, a 4.5, I think, is reasonably fair. Yeah, I'm sticking with the 4.5, mate. You know, I accept those comments, but I'm going with the 4.5. Moving on to Ruediger. Yeah, again, he was decent. He was solid. He made some good tackles, etc. Not one of his better games. We didn't see as much of him getting forward into the opposition box as we have done in recent games. But nonetheless, he was solid. He was calm. He was composed. It was not quite as good as Thiago Silva, but I think a solid 6 for Ruediger. I mean, obviously, if people are watching and they disagree with that, then obviously let me know and we can potentially have a discussion about it. But I'll probably still leave it the same as what I've got it. Moving on to the fullbacks now. Reece James, I have to say, oh, mate. Yeah, I mean, I'll rate the chicken balti pie at the end. So save the best till last. Yeah, Reece James. Look, not a great game from him. Just average, really, I have to say. Got forward and stuff, put some balls into the box, didn't really get caught out too much defensively. Just average, really. There's not really much else to say, and hopefully he can kind of rediscover the form he had sort of a few weeks ago, because it's been a couple of weeks, few matches now where he's kind of not done a lot, but that's to be expected, you know. So yeah, he's been one of our best performers this season. So a 5 out of 10 for Reece James. And moving on to Marcos Alonso, I have to say, you know, Alonso wasn't actually that bad yesterday. Again, didn't offer an awful lot going forward, but he was quite solid defensively. I mean, he's playing a lot of football at the moment, virtually every game in the left wing back positions. We haven't really got anyone else. But yeah, I thought he was okay. Was he better than Reece James? Probably not. Do you know what? Alonso was average. I don't think he was worse than average. So I think I'm going to slightly revised that, a 5 for Alonso, and then a 5.5 for Reece James. Moving on to the midfield, I'll come to Kante shortly because I know George is keen to hear my thoughts on his return, so I'll just get there in a sec. Trevor Chalobah, starting in midfield due to, obviously, injury and COVID problems. I actually thought he was quite good in that first half. Not bad at all. Considering he doesn't really play midfield, he's only had 2 training sessions under his belt and maybe 15 or so minutes he got the other day against Everton, I believe he came on. I thought it was okay. I initially thought at the game that he'd gone off at the break because he was booked, but actually it's because he picked up a bit of a knock, which there's not been any further information on yet. So hopefully that's not too bad, and hopefully that's not a setback. But yeah, I think Chalobah was above average. I'll probably go with a 6 for him. Now moving on to Ngolo Kante. He's had a few indifferent performances this season. He struggled with injury a lot, but my God, yesterday, this guy hadn't played for a good few weeks. He hadn't played since the Man United game where he didn't play that long either because he come off injured. Or was it Juventus he came off injured? No, he came off injured against Juventus, sorry. Yeah, he hasn't played since the Juve game. I think that was, a good few weeks ago now. It was like he hadn't been away. The guy was unbelievable. And as I said at the top of the show, it was agreed that he would only play 45 minutes, but Tuchel had to overrule the medical department and he ended up playing the full 90. And you just see when he was back on the pitch yesterday, what we miss in the middle of the park. Someone that he does break forward. He still looks a little bit lost when he picks the ball up in the final third, kind of in and around the box, which is kind of understandable as that's not his game. But in terms of getting around the pitch, breaking play up, he was unbelievable. And it's almost like the guy's superhuman. And he's just a joke. Honestly, he was so good yesterday. Definitely our man of the match. And he showed what we've been missing in that midfield. But it's really important now that we don't overuse him in the midst of this COVID crisis and kind of injury crisis. And he ends up picking up another knock. And then he's out again for a few weeks because we're going to really need him over this festive period because the guy is so important. But yeah, I thought he was really, really good yesterday. And one of 3 big positives along with the clean sheet, Thiago Silva and a return of Mateo Kovacic. So yeah, for Kante, I think he was our man of the match. I give him an 8 out of 10. Sao Niguez, I will give him a rating because he played a whole half. I actually think, as I touched on, he was actually quite good when he came on. Apart from once or twice where he gave away possession a bit cheaply, he actually did the simple stuff well yesterday. Sitting slightly deeper, he kind of recycled possession well, picked out the simple passes. You might argue, it's a professional footballer. He's obviously going to be good at doing that sort of thing. Well, yes, but he has struggled a lot recently. This is one of his better performances in a Chelsea shirt, and rightly to be praised by Tuchel yesterday, and right to be given some credit by the fans because this was one of his better performances. Admittedly, it has been a low bar, but I thought it was a 6.5 yesterday when he came on. He really helped kind of steady things in the middle of the park there. Moving on to the front 3. Kante or Makaleli, who's better? Oh, that's a tough question because I think Kante is a bit more of an all-rounder, does a little bit more than Makaleli does. For me, there was no one better than Makaleli at just sitting in front of that back 4, breaking play up, playing a simple pass, setting the attack on its way. I mean, the guy's got the position named after him after all. But I mean, I think Kante's a slightly different player. I know they're both kind of defensive-minded midfield players, but you never saw Makaleli get forward into the sort of the last bit of the pitch. He very rarely ventured past the halfway line. So whilst they are both defensive-minded midfield players, I think they are slightly different. So it's a tough one to say. But I mean, I think we're blessed to have had 2 of the best in their position to possibly ever play the game in that position. That's quite a big statement, but we've been blessed to have those along with Michael Essien as well. I mean, really have been lucky over the years to see some fantastic kind of midfield players. But yeah, it's hard to choose. I do feel they're slightly different. I know that's a bit of a cop-out, but that is the answer. Moving on to the front 3. It was a quiet afternoon for these guys. Literally hardly had anything to do. I'll start with Hakim Ziyech. To be honest, I can't really give him anything more. I have to give him below a 5 just because he didn't do anything. I know he didn't have much to do, didn't receive the ball a lot. When he did have it, though, he didn't do much with it. It just wasn't a lot there at all. It's not really his fault, but, had no influence on the game. It's the same with a lot of the other guys as well, just no influence on the game. I'm going to have to give Ziyech a 4 out of 10. I know that might seem a bit harsh if he played really bad, but he didn't play badly. He just had nothing to do. So he hardly got the ball, as I said, which is a problem which is a bit of a problem in itself. I think the whole front line struggled really. But yeah, we did our best at the top of the pitch. They all tried hard, but ultimately we only had one opportunity, as I referenced at the start. So yeah, I can't give Hakim more than a 4 out of 10. Moving on to Christian Pulisic. Look, he was poor yesterday, but it wasn't really his fault. Again, he's playing up in that false 9 position. He doesn't like it particularly. He's clearly not a false 9. We are pumping long balls into the box, which isn't his game, as I've referenced before. But yeah, we've got to be honest here. Pulisic, not great at all. I'm going to have to give Pulisic a 3.5. And I do worry for Christian Pulisic because there is talent there, but we're just not seeing it on a consistent enough basis. And each time he comes back from an injury, he seems to be a worse player than before he got injured. And I think it's almost a bit of a crossroads here. Undoubted ability, yes. Is he fulfilling his potential? Absolutely not at the club at the moment. And for £63 million, you do expect a lot more. I know you can sort of give him a bit of slack because he's playing in the false 9, but even when he's had opportunities on the left or right, he hasn't really delivered this season, apart from that cameo off the bench against Leicester where he scored and looked lively, but that's coming on at 2-0 up and when the game's done and dusted. It's completely different circumstances. He has to do more, and he's not the only one in the front line that has to do more, but again, another not good game from him. And I just think he needs to get his head up more as well. He needs to improve his awareness. There was a couple of times yesterday where if he just got his head up and played the ball across, then there was potential for a chance to be created. But yeah, not good. I mean, 3 point. Well, mate, what do you think Pulisic gets then? He didn't do anything. Like, he had that one chance where, look, if you're being critical, we should bury it. It's not as easy as I first thought, but with the top players, you've got to take those opportunities. But yeah, 3.5 for Christian Pulisic. Moving on to Mason Mount. His run of scoring in 4 games in a row in the Prem finished. Couldn't make it 5 on the bounce. A quiet game for him. Look, he huffed and he puffed. He tried really hard. He was putting a lot of effort in. But again, yeah, just nothing really happened for anyone in the final third of the pitch. Not one of his better games, and he will definitely have better days in the Chelsea shirt. So for me, again, the front 3 were all below average. So a 4.5 for Mount because he was the best of the front 3. But yeah, it was a difficult afternoon for those players at the top end of the pitch, really feeding off scraps. And the fact we only had 1 effort on goal kind of says it all. But yeah, I mean, Mateo Kovacic, it was great to see him back in action. He didn't really do a lot, got on the ball, did some okay things, but yeah, didn't obviously play long enough to get a rating. But yeah, those are my... Oh yeah, that was no pun intended with huffed and puffed, the big bad Wolves. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, mate, it's good from you, but yeah, I can't take credit for that because yeah, I wasn't thinking that at all. But yeah, no, that's the way. That's how I saw the game. That's just my opinion on the player ratings. Obviously, you guys can let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments below if you watch it back what you think of my ratings. If you disagree or agree, it's great to hear everyone else's thoughts. Oh yeah, let's just round out with. Let me just stop sharing my screen. Round out with the chicken balti pie. Yeah, obviously. Those of you know, when you go to away matches, you obviously don't get access to as good a food as the home fans do. You get access to 1 food truck, and there was like a selection of 3 pies and a couple of sausage rolls. And honestly, this was one of the worst things. I mean, the food at football is not great at the best of times. This chicken balti pie was honestly awful. It was burnt on the bottom. The chicken was proper dry, and it was so hot as well. And they just give you a wooden fork. There's like, how are you meant to eat that pie without cutting it up or anything like that? So yeah, mate, it was an absolute farce. Honestly, one of the worst things I've eaten at a football ground. So hopefully on the next away day, I can get something better. But Yeah, the pie is going to get more than Pulisic. No, it's not going to get more than Pulisic. Sorry, the pie was honestly awful. For the fact it was just about edible, it gets a 2 out of 10. Otherwise, mate, absolutely shocking on the pie front. So yeah, maybe that could be a new feature on the channel, rating food at different football grounds. But obviously, I'd have to get to a few more games. We might have to hold fire on that one. But yeah, guys, that's just my thoughts on the Wolves game, the player ratings, and rating the chicken balti pie as well. For those of you that are interested. If you want to check out my match day experience, I have done a match day vlog that is on the channel. So make sure you do watch that to see what it was like at the match yesterday. As I said, again, big up to all the travelling Chelsea fans. Really, really great stuff to get up to the game, considering the circumstances. So big respect to all of you who travelled. As I said, guys, make sure you smash a like on this video. Check out my match day vlog. And subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate all of your support. So make sure you click that subscribe button. It means a lot to me. And I will catch you again in the Brentford preview tomorrow for the Carabao Cup quarter-final. Take it easy, guys.